This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so good morning to everybody and welcome. And thank you so much for joining us for today's presentation on nutrition goals, micronutrient needs. As we were just talking about, people have so many questions about vitamins, minerals, supplements, what should and should not be taking. So I know we will get some great information about that today. I am Ruth Nickens. I am with the Tallahassee Senior Center. I'm the Health and Wellness Program Coordinator. So I will be here to kind of moderate. But at this point, I would just like to thank our team of wonderful speakers. TMH Metabolic Center and also University of Florida Extension has played a big role in the series, and it's just been terrific. And we look forward to planning the next one for 2022. If you have any particular nutritional topics that you are interested in learning more about, feel free to email me, call me at the Senior Center, or just put it in the text box today and I'll make a note of that. So with that, thank you to our speakers. I'm going to turn it over to Afaf and let her introduce herself and her team.
Hello, everyone. We're so excited to be here. My name is Afaf Kasem, and I'm the Director of Quality of Life Services here at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. And a lot of what I do has to do with nutrition education in the community, but also program development. And one of our biggest partners in doing a lot of this work is University of Florida's Leon County Extension Office. So with me here today also is our partner, Amy Mullins. And Amy is not presenting today, but if you've attended any of the other classes or series that we partaked in with the Senior Center, you've probably seen her. I also have Amanda with me, and Amanda's going to be the main presenter today. Amanda's our dietetic intern, and she's actually our intern from Sodexo, which is the company that actually operates the food and nutrition department here. And so we're so excited to have her here to present to us about the micronutrients. And of course, I'll be coming in periodically to answer questions as well, just to provide support. We also have two other interns that are on this call, also learning from this presentation, so they can also do so in the future as well. I don't know if Dawn is on the call. I'm just checking. Dawn is, yes, she is. Okay, Dawn is the other dietitian. She's the director of the Metabolic Health Center, who's also been heavily involved in these presentations, so you probably heard from her and seen her as well. So we're just excited that we're here today to provide this presentation to you. And we hope that you learn a lot. And I am sure you're going to have plenty of questions. And if we can't answer it today, we will get you the answer. So just want to make sure that you guys are able to ask whatever it is that you have questions about pertaining to nutrition. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda.
All right. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope everyone's doing well today. Can everyone see the presentation? Can someone let me know? Do you see it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So today we'll be talking about some nutrition goals for the new year, specifically micronutrient needs, and we'll go into what those are in the next few slides. Let's see. Okay, so this is just an overview here of what we'll be talking about throughout the presentation. So we will first discuss the dietary guidelines for Americans. We'll talk about some micronutrients of concern for healthy aging and go into a little bit about bone health, joint health, and some nutrients that we need for general health, and then where to get those micronutrients and how much we should be eating or getting in a day. So if anyone, has anybody heard of the dietary guidelines before? If you have or know anything about them, you can feel free to come off mute and share what you know about them, but we will talk about them briefly as they're very important for Americans and the nutrition guidelines. So has anybody heard of them before?
No.
Yes.
Yes, some no. Okay, perfect. So every 5 years, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Agriculture publish these dietary guidelines, and they're for Americans to help them choose healthy eating patterns. It's the nation's go-to source for nutrition advice, and it serves as our science-based foundation for nutrition programs and policies across the U.S. The aim of these guidelines is to promote health and prevent disease for all Americans. You can see the most current edition is the 2020 to 2025 edition, and the first one that was published in 1980. So most of all the information that we will be providing today can be found in the dietary guidelines, and you'll see on the slide that you can find them at dietaryguidelines.gov. You'll find the documents, so if you wanted to go check them out on your own, that is where you would find them. So micronutrients, that's going to be our main topic today. Does anybody know what micronutrients are? So they're vitamins and minerals, and they are required in small amounts for growth and development. When we think of nutrients, we have macronutrients and we have micronutrients. So our macronutrients would be our carbohydrates, our fats, and our proteins that we need in larger amounts and provide us energy. And then we have our micronutrients, which are our vitamins and minerals, and they have different jobs in the body to help fight infection, keep our nerves healthy, and our bones strong, which is very important as we age. So the dietary reference intake is just a term used to describe the amount of the nutrients that we need per day. So we will talk briefly about the numbers as well as the food sources of these nutrients that are of concern. Chronic diseases and medications may change your individual needs. So it's always important to talk with your doctor or healthcare provider or a registered dietitian to determine your individual needs. One example of that would be high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, you may need to lower your sodium intake. So that's why it's important to always talk with your healthcare provider to discuss your specific needs. So this is just an overview here of some micronutrients as well as nutrients and other additional factors that are of concern as we age, specifically for bone health, joint health, and then general health. So you can see we have calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, as well as protein and resistance exercise being important for our bone health. When we talk about joint health, we'll be talking about vitamin C and zinc, and then some general health guidelines and micronutrients that are needed would be vitamin B12, sodium, potassium, and hydration, so our water intake, or fluid intake rather. So the first nutrient of concern is going to be calcium. Calcium is a mineral that helps keep our bones strong and our teeth strong. Our ability, however, to absorb calcium decreases as we age, about 15 to 20%. And you can see here on the slide some sources of calcium. Now, most commonly we think of dairy products as our main source of calcium. However, there are other sources of calcium that we can find in foods. So here's some on the screen. The one thing I wanted to note is that the orange juice, there is orange juices that you can find that are fortified with calcium, meaning that it's not naturally found in oranges. However, the food manufacturers add the calcium into the orange juice, making it a good source. So for that, you would want to look on the label of the bottle and see if it says fortified with calcium. Okay. And if we don't get enough calcium in our diet, our body is going to take calcium from our bones where we store calcium, and it weakens the bone. So that is something that we want to be mindful of as we age. Our next nutrient for bone health is vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important for calcium absorption. So without vitamin D, our bodies can't absorb calcium. So it is important to not only focus on calcium when we're focusing on bone health, but also vitamin D. In addition to helping absorb calcium, it strengthens our immune system and helps in healing. And it also improves our muscle strength and balance, which reduces our fall risk, which becomes important as we age. So most common sources of vitamin D, I think, are fortified dairy products as well as fortified orange juice. Again, they add the vitamin D into the dairy products and into the orange juice, so making sure that you look on the label to see that it has vitamin D in it. And another common great source of vitamin D, as well as healthy fats, is our fatty fish like salmon or cod liver oil. And another source of vitamin D is sunlight. However, sunlight may not provide all of the vitamin D that we need, especially if we are deficient in vitamin C, which is very common among Americans, and not just older adults. So it is important to talk with your doctor about your vitamin D levels and see, if you're deficient or not, and talk with them before taking any vitamin D supplements. So just making sure that you talk with the doctor to discuss your individual needs, and they can test that as well. And another nutrient for bone health is protein. So protein is not a micronutrient, it's a macronutrient, meaning we need it in larger amounts, and it provides us energy as well. So our body organs, our muscles are made up of protein, and it's essential for building, maintaining, and repairing tissues in our body, such as bone and muscle. So we want to make sure we're getting enough protein to support our bones and our muscles and keep us strong. Now, in older adults, they do find that lower protein intake is associated with low bone mineral density, which is an indicator of bone strength. So it is very important that we make sure we're getting enough protein. And we'll talk a little bit about the amounts that are recommended, but again, they can vary your protein needs based on age, gender, activity levels, and different factors. So discussing that also with your doctor as well, but we'll touch on it briefly. And some sources of protein, I think mostly we think of our animal proteins like our meats, poultry, eggs, seafood, but plant-based sources of protein are also really good and a great source that we should be incorporating. Some of those would be your legumes, like your beans or lentils, nuts or nut butters, dairy products, and then tofu or other soy products.
I can do this, but the doctor.
And one additional micronutrient important for bone health is magnesium. So when we talk about magnesium, I wanted to note that it is a component of bone. 60% of our body's magnesium stores are stored in our bone, and magnesium helps our body run smoothly, specifically our heart, bones, muscles, nerves, other organs. And the sources of magnesium, food sources of magnesium, are listed here on the slide. And again, they're a lot of the same things as our protein sources. So we have our legumes, which are our beans or our lentils. We have nuts, seeds, our whole grains, fortified cereals. So that would be cereals where, again, they add the nutrient like magnesium into the cereal. And then we have dark green leafy vegetables, fish, poultry, and beef. So this slide just goes over the recommended daily amounts of each micronutrient. So don't get so caught up on the numbers, but we did just want to show what the recommended amounts are for men and women over age or 51 and over. And you can see on the side here, so for example, 1 cup of milk, 8-ounce glass, so 1 cup of low-fat milk would provide us with 300 milligrams of calcium, which would be 30% of the recommended amount that we need per day. And again, we have sunlight there for vitamin D, but we also want to make sure we're trying to eat some sources of vitamin D, whether that's our fortified orange juice or dairy products or our fatty fish as well. And so these are the recommended amounts of protein and magnesium. The sources, again, are listed on the side, but we already went over them a little bit. Now, I know I mentioned that the protein requirements vary based on our age, gender, and activity levels, so it is important to talk with your doctor. But on average, about 5 to 6.5 ounces of protein sources per day is recommended, and a 1 ounce equivalent of protein would be a 1 ounce portion of meats, 1 egg, a 1/4 cup of beans, cooked beans, or 1 tablespoon of a nut butter like peanut butter. So that would be 1 ounce. A lot of our meat servings are served in like 3-ounce portions. So that would give you, about half of what you need per day. But it's important to eat a variety of protein sources. So just consider that and try to get a variety so we get a bunch of nutrients. So one thing I wanted to mention while we're on the topic of bone health is osteoporosis. I'm sure many of you have heard of osteoporosis before, so just wanted to briefly touch on it. But it is a disease of the bone that occurs when our bones become too thin and weak, and it causes them to break more easily. So you can see here a picture of a normal bone and an osteoporotic bone, and the word osteoporosis means porous bone. So this picture here shows the inside of our bones, and you can see that they have like a honeycomb structure to them with spaces. Now on the right side is an osteoporotic bone, and you can see that the spaces are larger and the bone structure is thinner. So it can break more easily, it's more fragile, and this can happen with advanced age as well as deficiencies from nutrients or hormonal deficiencies as well as diseases. So it's important that we try and focus on getting the appropriate nutrients needed for bone health so that we stay mobile and we sustain our independence as we age. Fractures and falls are very common in older adults, and we want to avoid those as best we can. Now, regular exercise, we will touch a little bit on exercise today, some recommendations, as well as a diet that is full of bone-healthy nutrients can help reduce the risk of osteoporosis and reverse the loss of bone density. So the goal is to slow the rate of bone loss and preserve our muscle function, keep our muscles strong so we can stay mobile and stay independent and do things on our own. So briefly, we'll talk about some resistance exercise. Does anybody, I know the Senior Center has some exercise classes. Does anybody participate in any classes? Oh, I see Ruth mentioned that the Senior Center has some fitness classes, so that's great. So I encourage everybody after receiving medical clearance from their doctor to take a look at some of the fitness classes that are offered at the Senior Center, because they are a great way to help reduce the risk of falls and keep our bones and our muscles strong, which is really important throughout our lives, but especially as we age. So I didn't want to go too in depth on exercise, as it's important to speak with your doctor first and make sure it's okay. But some examples of resistance exercise would be using some resistance bands, some body weight exercises, maybe some chair squats, getting up and out of the chair, or lifting light weights like 2 pounds, 3 pounds. And it is recommended to do those exercises 2 days a week. So we want to make sure that we're also incorporating these resistance exercises and not just our aerobics to help with bone health. So making sure that we incorporate exercises that focus on all muscle groups, the legs, the hips, the buttocks, back, abdomen, chest, shoulders, arms. So I'm excited to see that Ruth mentioned that the fitness classes at the Senior Center help prevent the falls and keep our bones strong. So check those out once you make sure it's okay through your doctor. So we will briefly talk about joint health. So joints are where two or more bones, are joined together. So we have our joints, we have cartilage that lays over the joints and connects our bones, so they glide over and make movement easier. So when we talk about joints, tendons, ligaments, all of these structures that support our bones, they are made up of collagen, and collagen is a protein that has a rubber band-like consistency, and it is both strong and flexible. But as we age, this loss of muscle and collagen happens. So we want to make sure that we're getting the appropriate nutrients that will help with the maintenance and production of collagen to help make sure that our bones, or our joints, are stable. So we'll talk briefly now about vitamin C and zinc. So here are some sources of vitamin C. I know most people will think of oranges or citrus fruits when we think about vitamin C, but there's also some additional sources here, such as bell peppers, strawberries, our cruciferous vegetables, which are things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. And then we have zinc, and some sources of zinc would be our whole grains, legumes, and then again, lean red meats and poultry. So it is important to make sure that we're getting enough of these nutrients, because if not, that can impair the stability of our joints and make us less stable. So again, this is just showing the recommended amounts of vitamin C and zinc. You can see here that 1 glass of orange juice, an 8-ounce glass of orange juice, provides us with 90 milligrams of vitamin C, which would be 100% of what we need per day for vitamin C. Zinc, you can see, for example, 3 ounces of roast beef would give us more than half of our daily needs, about 64%. So just something to think about. Don't get too caught up on the numbers there. We're just trying to give you a guide and you could find these and more information in the dietary guidelines. So vitamin B12 and sodium and potassium. So these are important as we age for general health. Vitamin D helps maintain your blood, vitamin B12, not vitamin D, helps maintain our blood and our nerve cells and keeps them healthy. We will go over some sources on the next slide. And sodium and potassium, those are electrolytes that help regulate our hydration and the nervous system. Now it is important to talk with your doctor about specific needs, as medications may change your needs or certain chronic diseases. Again, one example would be high blood pressure. So when we think about sodium, do you know where you get sodium from in your diet? Anybody? So sodium, mostly for Americans, we get a lot of sodium, way too much sodium. And so one example would be table salt, but more commonly, it comes from our processed foods, our packaged foods, canned items, frozen meals, our junk foods. When things are stored on shelves, they add sodium in there or salt in there to preserve the food. And so that gives us likely way more than we need in a day. So we'll talk about some sources of vitamin B12 and potassium. Sodium, it's mostly salt, and our foods are, especially in the American diet, are loaded with sodium. So we can discuss some ways to reduce our sodium intake, but again, it is important to talk with your doctor about that as well. So here you can see some sources of vitamin B12. The main sources are animal products, so our meats, our dairy products, cheeses, eggs, things like that. And they also fortify our cereals with vitamin B12. So looking for a whole grain cereal with low sugar will provide you with vitamin B12 as well. Now, sodium these are the recommended daily amounts. However, again, based on some certain chronic conditions you may have, you may need less sodium in your diet, and your doctor will talk with you about that. So if you are concerned about anything, make sure you mention it to them, maybe jot a little note down now, and you could bring that question to them later. And then potassium is very helpful to reduce high blood pressure. It can lower our risk of kidney stones, osteoporosis, improve bone health, and blood sugar control. So here are the recommended amounts, and then we list some sources here, such as a banana, which I think is our most commonly thought of source of potassium. But there's also additional sources of potassium, such as baked potatoes, spinach, that we want to try to incorporate and not only focus on the bananas.
And let me just make a comment here too about potassium. Depending on chronic conditions like renal disease or even some other conditions that require you to be on certain medications, even high blood pressure, your potassium recommendations may change from your doctor, whether that's increase or even decrease your potassium. So we do want to make note of that. A lot of what we provided today, I know you all know we've reiterated a couple of times, is just the average. It's not dependent on any chronic condition. So if you have a chronic condition and you're curious about how much sodium you need or how much potassium you need, definitely speak with your doctor before trying to load up on any of these nutrients or severely decrease any of these nutrients.
Thank you, Afaf. Yes, it is very important to talk with your doctor because we don't know your individual conditions. This is just general guidelines for health. So making sure that you talk with them as well to ensure you're not getting too much or too little, and especially because medications can alter our needs as well. And lastly, our water. Our fluid intake is very important. Our hydration levels are really important as we age. We do find as we age that our sense of thirst tends to decline. So many times we may not feel thirsty and we're not drinking as much and we may become dehydrated. So water is very important. Our bodies are made up mostly of water, and water intake is going to reduce stress on the kidneys, help our body function properly, and it also can ease constipation. So it's very important that we stay hydrated, and it doesn't just have to be water, but we want to focus on unsweetened beverages, such as maybe an unsweet tea or flavoring our water with fruits or lemon, and making sure that we get enough per day. Your need will change, again, based on any conditions or medications you take. So talk with your doctor about that as well. But it is important to make sure you're staying hydrated. I'm sure you've heard that before. So taking small sips throughout the day can help really well, just being mindful of that, as well as making sure that we incorporate foods like fruits and vegetables that are made up a lot of with water. So those are another source of water that we can include and make sure that we're staying hydrated, because that is one thing very important for everybody, all ages, but especially as we get older, we want to make sure we're staying hydrated. And when our sense of thirst tends to decline with age, we may not realize we're dehydrated, so we may not be drinking as much, or it may be harder to move. Mobility may be an issue, and so older adults may not drink as much water, but it is very important. So staying hydrated and trying to focus on water or other unsweetened beverages rather than our sodas or our juices that are very high in sugars or added sugars. So that is mostly it, but I hope there's some questions so we can talk more, and we have a Afaf here to answer questions as well. Does anybody want to write in the chat or just come off of mute to ask any questions you may have about any of the nutrients we discussed?
There was a question in the chat earlier about, was it collagen peptides? Could you explain what those are and what role they play, and if that's something people need to take as a supplement?
Sure, Afaf, you want to take that one?
Sure. So when talking about whether or not we should supplement with collagen, your body naturally makes collagen. Okay, so the production throughout our lifespan is naturally occurring. There are foods that can support collagen creation or growth in the body, but science isn't 100% supporting the need for a supplementation. So I would go with what science says is you don't need to supplement, your body naturally makes it. I will say that a well-balanced diet with appropriate amount of protein will give you the collagen or will assist in the collagen production that's needed that the body already does. So Amanda mentioned earlier the protein sources, and she actually meant it in there, collagen, growth or collagen production, because protein can help do that. So with a well-balanced diet and adequate protein, Okay, not excess. You don't have to have an enormous amount of protein. Adequate protein should provide you with that collagen. And that's not saying, the supplements out there are super harmful or there's something wrong with them. There is a lot of science. It's still very new. So when things are new, I definitely will always say to ease on the side of caution when it comes to things that are new that people are doing because it's trendy. But sometimes your doctor might want you on a collagen supplement. There's one specific one that they recommend for a certain reason. So absolutely talk to your doctor. If you're on one, for sure, talk to your doctor about making sure that's okay. Or if you're like, I really want to start one and you're not sure if it's appropriate for you given your conditions, I would still talk to your doctor. But science isn't 100% saying you should be taking a supplement in order to produce more. That's still so new and it's being researched at this time. But Dawn, Amy, or even Amanda, if you have any more comments on that, like if you guys have read anything recently, please share.
I just wanted to mention, I forgot to mention in the presentation that supplements are not regulated by the FDA. So unlike drugs that are regulated, they're unregulated. A lot of them do not go through any regulation processes. So they may not even necessarily have what they say is in them. So it is important, again, to talk with your doctor. I know some supplement companies go through a process, a voluntary process of verifying their products and making sure they are what they say they are. But as a whole, supplements that they're not regulated. So just being mindful of that and always letting your doctor know what you may be taking over the counter because it may interact with the drugs you may be on or the medications.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it doesn't mean that, supplements are necessarily bad. It's just ensuring that you're on the right ones and the right amount. Because a lot of times we start supplements and we assume that we need this many milligrams or this many IUs, and we just don't know. We just take it because we want to get on a supplement to help with something. So I know somebody made a comment earlier about being on a supplement prescribed by their doctor. That's appropriate. Your doctor may have seen that you were deficient or wants you to take a vitamin D supplement with that many IUs in it. And that's appropriate. It's more so us making sure that you guys have spoken to your doctor, you've got your vitamin D tested, because even the younger population, it's not even just about aging, we're seeing deficiencies. So it's important that we actually get that lab value and know how to proceed with our doctor's advice.
So can a primary physician make a referral to your facility for dietary consultation and counseling?
And Dawn can speak more about, how the outpatient world works, but yes, I believe the primary care doctor can send a referral to a place like the TMH Metabolic Health Center to see a dietitian, but I'll let Dawn chime in if she's able to about how that works.
Yeah, just like doctors make referrals to other facilities, we get referrals for nutrition counseling here. I know there are some practices in town that also have a dietitian that subcontracts or works with them in other ways. So it might be worthwhile asking if there's already one that comes to the office. But yes, here at the Outpatient Metabolic Health Center, we do get referrals for outpatient nutrition counseling with the dietitians here. And how your doctor refers that to us, it's either electronically or via fax. There's a system for that, so I'm sure will know how to do that.
Can people self-refer?
Yes, but it's a lot easier when we have more of their medical information like lab values and list of diagnoses and that kind of thing to help customize and individualize the teaching for them. And some insurances require a referral from a physician in order to bill the insurance for the visit. So yes, technically you can self-refer, but it's helpful the more information that we can get.
And this is very connected to the next question someone asked, is if their own physician is not that well versed in nutrition, where can they go? You may have already answered that.
I think the services of a registered dietitian could be very helpful. That's a lot of the training that a dietitian gets in terms of all the things that were covered today, as well as how to customize nutrition therapy for individual health conditions. So I think doctors have a lot of training, but they don't get very much nutrition training at all. So I think asking for a referral to someone who could help both the physician and the patient, help help with whatever could help them nutrition wise would be a good recommendation or a place to start.
I know there are several in Tallahassee that are just very well known. Is there a registry or a list, or where could people go to find out, to find the names of some registered dietitians?
Do you know, Afaf or Amy, if there's a current listing of our area dietitian through FAND or PAND or something like that? Or is there, I know who works with our own organization, but I'm not sure if there's a listing of all in practice here.
Yeah, I think the Florida Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and actually the National Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, if you go on their website, I believe visit AND or eatright.org. Or eatrightflorida.org, either one. And we'll put that, Amanda, can you put that in the chat box? If you go on there and you go to find a dietitian and you type in your zip code or your address, or they ask for some kind of information, I believe they'll have a list there of ones that you can contact that provide outpatient counseling. I've attempted to try it in the past, but I haven't done it recently. So I think that's still available. It's still a resource.
That would be really helpful. Thanks. We also have a question about, I'm not exactly sure how to say it, quercetin and quercetin, is that how you say it?
Quercetin, yeah.
Quercetin, okay, so her doc recommends quercetin and melatonin. Can you say a few words about these?
Not really, because it depends on why the doctor recommended it and for what purpose. And so that must be something individualized if the doctor's is recommending that you take it. I'm not hugely familiar with the first one as far as like what kind of mechanism happens in the body. I would have to do more research, but we can do more research unless Amy and Dawn or Amanda know a little bit more about them and want to share that. But I believe it seems like if a doctor recommends it, there may be an individual need for it of some sort that you obviously don't have to share, but I'm not entirely sure what that would be.
Yeah, I'm not up on the latest research for that. I know it's used, some people use it as a supplement, maybe with exercise. Anyway, I'm not up on it at the moment enough to answer that one.
Yeah.
And melatonin, of course, is often recommended for sleep.
Right.
What are some of your recommendations for protein bars?
Oh, there's so many. I think it depends on what your goals are. So, most of the time we have recommendations that people ask about protein bars because they want to consume more protein, but sometimes forget that, after exercise or before exercise, or even a snack if you're not exercising, we always look for protein bars that have a well-balanced amount of carbohydrates and protein. And some bars will have either or, like a lot more carbs and no protein, or a lot more protein and no carbs. So trying to find one that has a balance of both is important, because whether it's a snack or an after workout snack, you need both to help build a healthy body, help build muscle, help make sure you're getting in protein. Some often have a lot more carbs than just sugar, and they have no protein. I can't say we can give you a brand. We don't tend to do that because we like to educate on reading the nutrition facts label. So it really will come back to, what are your goals? Is your goal to, like, for example, if I had diabetes, then I'm going to make sure that the protein bars I'm consuming aren't extremely high in carbohydrates. But if I'm not entirely concerned with that, I might look at added sugar, because I don't want to consume too much added sugar, even if I don't have diabetes. If my goal is 100% to get more protein in because my doctor says I'm not getting enough, then I may not be as concerned with carbohydrates. So it really just depends on your goals. And to be honest, I can't say there's a brand that's special. It's really just learning how to read the label depending on the goal that you have in mind. Hopefully that makes sense and is helpful.
Yeah, it's very confusing because they use different kinds of protein powders in them, which also have, vitamin and mineral supplements. Are you non-dairy? Are you paleo? Or, there's so many options out there. So I can see where you just just need to pick one that tastes good to you
For
as
sure.
well.
That is very true. A lot of them are very chalky and just don't taste good. So even some of them now more days have a lot more of that, plant-based natural food sources. So they don't taste as chalky. Not that there's anything wrong with like a whey protein that's placed in there or anything, but sometimes the taste is what makes somebody like eat it or not. So trying to find some that might have a better taste and not so chalky might, because there's a lot more trending ones coming out with like a natural food source where it's all like different foods put together and it's like a good balance of carbs and protein together. Yeah, and sometimes people use protein bars as meal replacement. Like they have lots of carbs and lots of protein because they want to eat it as a meal on the go really, really quick. But oftentimes it's seen as like a snack where it's a little bit less than that, and we're looking for that balance.
I'm a big fan of RX bars because they're just dates and egg and nuts.
They're really good.
They're just really simple ingredients and they make a lot of different flavors. So you can change that up.
Yeah. And I mean, somebody who might have diabetes might be more concerned with some of the carbohydrates in some of these, but a bar like RX has a really good balance of a lot of different nutrients as well. And like you said, they just put a whole bunch of whole foods in it, and they figured out a great recipe because it tastes good. Thank you for sharing that, Ruth. I see a question that says, what are the best kinds of seeds to eat? All kinds of seeds are great to eat. I mean, we always hear about flax seeds, chia seeds, sunflower, sesame. All of them are a great addition to a lot of recipes and just sprinkling it on your food. I will say, if you're going to do flaxseed, if you're trying to get like the benefits from the flaxseed, like the fiber, because flaxseed can have fiber in it, but also omega-3 fatty acids, which we know is a heart healthy nutrient. And so get ground flaxseed, and that way you're going to ensure that you're ingesting all of the benefits and nutrients versus just it's going through in its whole form. Does that make sense? So, I mean, I know you can grind just about anything, but especially flaxseed, you want to grind. I mean, chia, you wouldn't do that. It's okay, and you're still going to get some of the benefits. But I would say a variety of seeds would be the best recommendation. Of course, the portion matters. So how much you put is important, but I think they can all provide a good amount of healthy fats and fiber. Yeah, so that's a good one, Ruth. There's a lot of recipes for making your own protein bars if you want to get creative in the kitchen. I know eatright.org, the website we gave you earlier, we'll check out recipes on there. You'll find recipes written by dietitians that you might like and want to do in the kitchen. Of course, if you're more on the go and you don't have time for that, then you want to go and find one that is right for you at the grocery store.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's a question about vitamin D and vitamin B, if they help with anxiety or mood.
I can't say specifically if those nutrients assist with anxiety or mood, but I can say an overall well-balanced diet does, and getting the proper amount of nutrients from all the foods is important. And, now that I think about it, I think a while back we created a list of brain chemicals and different foods that help improve your mood. Ruth, maybe we can send that to you.
That sounds
it's not
great.
extensive. It's very, very brief, but I remember we did make that long ago. So we can work on that, and whoever sent that, maybe Ruth, you can send it out to whoever was on this Zoom invite.
Sure.
Yeah, because that's a great question, but let us do a little digging and find that list for you.
But I think we can safely say that a little bit of dark chocolate does tend to enhance mood, right?
For sure, right?
Does anyone have any other questions?
That's a good question for your doctor. Should you limit caffeine? It depends. Oftentimes people drinking a cup a day doesn't seem to be a huge issue, but if you have heart disease or you have something going on with arrhythmia, or your doctor finds a reason that you should not be consuming caffeine, definitely ask your doctor what he or she recommends for the amount of caffeine you should be consuming in a day. Yeah. But I can't say it's necessarily bad for you. If you are somebody that maybe has something like indigestion or acid reflux and you consume a lot of coffee, you're going to feel it. You would know. So sometimes people want to limit it for that reason as well, not just heart disease reasons. But I think everything in moderation. I know we always hear that and we keep going back to it, but really trying to do too much of everything and not enough variety is also something we try to concentrate on. Is like the question about seeds, like which seeds, a variety of seeds, which sources of protein. Amanda mentioned earlier, a variety, getting animal source and plant-based source of protein is excellent. And of course, that's because I think I mentioned this on a call before, but we always get different people on these calls. So I want to mention it again. When we think about different foods and different colors of foods, so whether that's brown, red, green, white, no matter the color of the food, especially fruits and veggies, okay? So when we look at, bell peppers and lettuce and what's another one? Spinach, onions, all of those fruits and vegetables have something we call phytonutrients, okay? And those nutrients help protect the actual fruit or vegetable from things like weather conditions and pests and controlling for their environment. Well, if it helps a fruit and vegetable keep them safe and healthy, what do you think it does for us? Okay, so it helps protect us from chronic conditions like hypertension and diabetes and cancer. So the more color you get in your diet, the more variety of nutrients you get to help protect you. Okay, so I know some of us say, well, I really like oranges, and that's the only thing that's the only fruit I'll eat. Trying to taste test and to get in other foods that you haven't tried before is a good idea. Or trying a new recipe that you haven't tried before to try to get in some nutrients that you haven't tried. Other than fruits and vegetables, spices. Spices are very, very special because they're like a concentrated amount of those phytonutrients. So adding different unique spices to your dishes to give it flavor instead of salt, or adding vegetables in your dishes that have flavor instead of salt is a great way to also get in more phytonutrients or more protective effects, or antioxidants, we'll call them as well. And of course, I wanted to mention any of the recommendations. Remember, they're all super general. Talk to your healthcare provider about anything specific to you. But if you're curious as to going back to that information, you can go and search the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, and you'll get everything, every nutrient. It's very extensive. And we just wanted to give you like a little piece of the big pie that exists out there for Americans. But we hope that you found it beneficial. And if you have any other questions, please ask Ruth, and we'll do our best to get you those answers. You're so welcome.
Thank you so much. And here's your chance if anyone has any other questions. I'll give you a few more seconds. I think we covered a lot of territory. Really great, some great information and resources. And I actually sat here and took my vitamins during the presentation. So
it helps you remember.
My doctor recommended supplements. Yeah.
There you go. We helped you remember. That's great. Thank you all so much. We really enjoy being a part of your presentations. And Amanda, thank you so much. You did
Yes, thank you for letting me get some experience and asking some questions. It's been really helpful as part of my intern experience to get to present today for you guys. So I really appreciate it, and thank you so much. And maybe I'll see you again.
I hope so. You did a terrific job.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and end it, and we'll hopefully see you soon. We'll plan some more things in 2022.
For sure. Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
for attending.